Hare Krishna, welcome everyone to our Yoga class. Om Gyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manavishtam Sampitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padikamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनं सहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोस्तुते तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णकृष्णाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी निति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Hare Krishna, welcome everyone. We are discussing about Srimad Bhagvatam, Canto 3. We are on chapter 31, the movements of living entities. And I think last time we discussed this sinful living entity after going through all the hellish situations in various hellish planets, then going through lower species of life, comes back to the human body and he gets into the womb of a human mother. And Kapildev, along with this description, he describes what happens to a devotee uh, living entity also. So this living entity, he has entered the womb of the mother, and Kapildev describes in detail how the child grows in the womb of the mother from day 1 to 6 months. Details are described, and then in the seventh month he gets consciousness. The fetus derives its nutrition from the mother. If the mother eats something very pungent, bitter, the embryo also suffers, completely dependent on the mother. Sometimes he is bitten by the infections and the worms, and he faints. In that situation, we were discussing the prayers of this devotee jiva within the womb of the mother. Not everyone remembers, but this is a devotee jiva. He remembers his previous 100 lives and he laments. He prays the Lord to bestow fearlessness. He tells how he has been suffering in this material world, in this womb. Prays to the Lord, please take me out of this place. We have discussed till which verse?
Up to 18.
218. Okay. So he is praying again and again to the Lord, as Bhaktivinoda Thakur also writes in his one of the bhajans, Bhuliya Tumare Samsare Asiya. So this living entity, he is praying to the Lord, oh my Lord, please take me out of this miserable condition once, and I'll worship you only. Ek baar Prabhu dekha diya more vanchale deenadasa. The Lord may say, how did you attain such wonderful understanding? How did you attain devotion? So this living entity says, by the mercy of some great souls. In the past life, I received this by the mercy of the great souls. And somebody may say, well, what is the proof that Supreme Lord exists? You are worshipping, you are telling that you will worship Supreme Lord. What is the proof? So this living entity says, well, which devata will show mercy to a fool like me? I'm such a fool. Only the Supreme Lord can show mercy to such a fool like myself. Nobody else will show any mercy. And therefore he says, oh my Lord, please help me. So we discussed till 18th verse. In the 18th verse, the Lord may ask, after hearing all these prayers, he says, Lord may ask, well, you have asked, please take me out. That means you are thinking that I am so merciless that I am putting you in this condition. I am not taking you out. So, thinking like this, the living entity says, no, my Lord, it is a blessing that I have been in the womb of this mother, and by the mercy of you only, O my Lord, I have been given this condition. Still, you are protecting me. Only by your mercy, I am surviving here. So, it is not that you are merciless. So, we'll continue with 19th verse. Somebody can read the translation of the 19th verse.
Such persons are condemned by the supreme order of the Lord because they are averse to the nectar of the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They are compared to stool-eating hogs. They give they give up hearing the transcendental activities of the Lord and indulge in hearing of the abominable activities of materialistic persons.
Okay. So this living entity is now praying. The Jnani, the living entity in another type of the body, sees only by instinct. He knows only the agreeable and disagreeable perceptions. But I have a body in which I can control any senses. So he's telling it all.
19th, we have to go to 19th.
Sorry?
19th one. Verse number 19. Oh, sorry. I made a mistake there. Please go on. Correct. I read a wrong translation.
Yeah, 19th one.
Yes,
You can please.
I didn't read the 19th one, so I went with that. Sorry. It was. So the living entity in another type of body sees only by instinct. He knows only the agreeable and disagreeable sense perceptions of that particular body. But I have a body in which I can control my senses and can understand my destination. Therefore, I offer my respectable obeisances to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by whom I have been blessed with this body, and by whose grace I can see him within and without. Very nice.
Yes. So now, just to explain how Lord is so merciful, he is giving some more details about the mercy of the Lord. He says all the lower species of life, they just work by instinct. If they want to eat, they eat. If they develop a desire to sleep, they sleep. But I have a body in which I can control my senses. I've been given this human body. So you're so merciful, although I deserve to go in lower species of life, but still, you have given me this body in which I can actually understand the purpose of life. So Chakravarti Thakur writes, thinking of the Lord's great mercy to him, he gives more details. Having attained the human form, ayam, the word used in this verse is, pashyati ayam dhishnaya. This body, this human body which I have received, which is surrounded by the body of seven dhatus, the seven layers are mentioned, sees with intelligence the situations of happiness and distress. The human beings can understand. We have the ability to analyze our conditions. Ke ami, ke ne amare jare tapatre. Animals can't understand this. Animals just helplessly go through the various things which are happening to them. This means that some fortunate soul situated in his body becomes a jnani. So to become a jnani, it requires a great fortune. A jnani sees through the intelligence. He is not seeing through, he is not behaving out of instinct. He sees through the intelligence. And then he says, a devotee soul, although I am so sinful, I can see by the intelligence given by the Lord. And the Lord, he is the presiding deity of Chitta. We all know the Antakarana, different deities are the presiding deities of mind, intelligence, ego, and Chitta. Chitta is consciousness. So the Lord himself is the presiding deity of consciousness. So I am most sinful, and by intelligence given by the Lord, who is obtained, or the Lord to be served by Chitta, yet Srishtaya, the intelligence which is given by the Lord, and the Lord who is presiding deity of Chitta, or the Lord who is to be served by the Chitta. So there are different meanings of this word, yat Srishtaya. And because of this mercy of this Lord, who is obtained externally as the deity and in the heart by realization. So the jnani, he can realize the Lord. Nobody else can realize the Lord. In the heart, he realizes the Lord as Chaitya Guru, as the Paramatma. And in the external world, one can see the Lord in the deity form. So that's how he is giving more evidences that how Lord is so merciful. You're always guiding me. So Srila Prabhupada writes, the evolutionary process of different types of bodies, something like fructifying flower. So there are Sanskrit terms for that. Sankuchita, Mukulita, Viksita, Purna Viksita. You know, Sankuchita, Mukulita, Viksita, Purna Viksita. So these are the four stages. So the different species, they have different levels of consciousness. As Krishna also says, anyone remembers any verse from Bhagavad Gita which describes the different levels of consciousness, how they are covered? Any example is given? Anyone remembers that? Krishna in the third chapter gives the example of how the lust covers different living entities, and he gives three examples. Anyone remembers?
Covered by fire, covered by womb is the last one. In between is mirror with the dust.
Yeah. So what are these three indicates?
One is a lesser level of like covering,
Consciousness.
The lower consciousness, the covering is lighter, but no, the higher the consciousness, the covering is less. Like womb
Correct.
in the child in the womb is covered with a thick covering.
So which species like that?
Tree is something like like immovable trees and
Yeah.
but they cannot have a higher consciousness.
So the plants, they are given the example of the embryo covered by the womb. Dhumena vriyate vani yatha darsho malena cha yatha ulbena avrito garbhas tatha tenidam avritam. Yatha ulbena avrito garbha. Just like the garbha is covered. Just like the mirror covers the dust covers the mirror. That's like the animal species. And the smoke covering fire, fire is completely seen. Only a little bit is covered. So that's how different living entities are covered by their different levels of covering. That is the evolutionary process. And then Prabhupada writes, there are 84 lakh species of life. There is a systematic progress from the lower to higher species, and human life is the highest. That's why it is glorified everywhere. The fortunate child in the womb of his mother realizes a superior position and is thereby distinguished from other bodies. Hridayamadyam sulabham sudurlabham plavam sukalpam guru karnadharam. This human body is rare, which is attained so easily, it is rarely achieved. Another verse from Bhagavatam describes Labdhva sudurlabhamidam bahu sambhavante मनुष्यमर्थदमनित्यमपीह धीरः तूर्णं यतेत् न तु पतेदनुमृत्यु यावन् निःश्रेयसाय विषया खलु सर्वतः स्यात्. This verse says, Labdva, you have achieved this. Labdva sudurlabha, it is very rare. Bahu sambhavante, after many, many births, you have achieved this. Which body? Manushyam. Arthadam, it can give the highest realization. Anityam, although it is temporary, but we can achieve the highest in this human body. Turnam yatet na tupate nanumrityu yavan. It will be destroyed very quickly. Human body is not a long life, especially in Kali Yuga. So therefore, Nishreyasaya Vishaya, one should think of Nishreya, the higher purpose of life, because sense gratification is available in all the species of life. So that is what is described. Srila Prabhupada describes the glories of this human body over the animal species. Then he says, Dam Shariri. Dam Shariri means we have a body in which we can control the mind and the senses. The complication of material life is due to uncontrolled mind and uncontrolled senses. One should feel grateful to the Supreme Lord for having attained a nice human form. And then Prabhupada gives the example of the difference between the human body and the animal body, and how by controlling the senses one can achieve the highest perfection of life, self-realization one can achieve, one can try to see the Lord. As Bhagavatam says, Tasyaiva heto prayate tukovido nalabhyate yad brahmatam upariyadaha. One should endeavor for that which is not available in all the 14 planetary systems. Otherwise, sense gratification is available in every species of life. Vishaya khalu sarvatasya. Sense gratification is available in all the species. As Kapiladev had described previously also, I think in the beginning of the 29th chapter, 30th chapter, he says, sense gratification is available everywhere. That verse. जंतु वैभवे तस्मिन् याम याम योनिम अनुव्रजेत तस्याम जलपते निर्वृति न विरच्यते. 34 30th chapter 4th verse. Yam yam yonim anuprajet. Any species one goes, he gets a particular type of happiness there. So the purpose of human life is not to enjoy, but to develop self-realization, to achieve the Lord who is Anadi. Prabhupada focuses on the few words which are mentioned in the verse, how the living entities are part of the Lord. Okay, so now next verse. So, yes, Prabhuji, you had a question.
That means now only a fortunate soul can pray, no? It's only all souls don't pray to Lord.
Yeah, we discussed in the last class, only a devotee jiva gets the opportunity to remember all the previous lives. Not all womb, all the jivas in the womb they remember. Only a few rare devotee souls remember their 100 lives, not everyone.
There is a rare situation actually.
Yeah. So that is described here. It is rare. So in the next verse, the Lord may say after hearing this, that, well, you choose me by bhakti, but you are agitated by suffering. So, as Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur also says, you choose me by bhakti, but you are agitated by suffering. Because you requested to get out, now I will take you out of the womb. So, by this time, this jiva is actually becoming self-realized. So he says, no, don't do that. I don't want to get into a condition of suffering in the outside world. So a similar prayer comes in the Gajendra section, the prayers of Gajendra. After he starts offering beautiful prayers, Madre Prapanna Pashupasha Vimokshanaya, Muktaya, Bhuri Karunaya, and all those beautiful prayers. While he is offering these prayers, he has become self-realized, Gajendra. And then one of the prayer he makes, oh my Lord, I don't care to get out of this clutches of this crocodile. I want to get out of the clutches of this material existence only. So similar prayer, this Jiva is offering here. There Gajendra he says, Jiji Vishena Hamiha Moya Kim Mantar Bahischa Vritaye Vayonya Ichhami Kalena Nayasya Viplava Tasyatma Loka Varnayasya Moksham Jiji Vishena Aham. I don't want to live. Because anyways I am covered. Antar Bahischa Avrita. I am covered internally also and externally also. My elephant body is anyways dull body. And internally also I am covered with false ego. So what is the use of this liberation from the crocodile clutches? I want to come out of the material clutches. So this here living entity here is also saying, no, I don't want to get out of this condition now. In that place, he says, if I come out, I'll be again covered by Maya. The Lord's Maya pervades all beings who have gone outside the womb. By her, the false conception of I am this body and the repeated birth takes place. That's why Shukdev Goswami didn't want to come out. He said, I'll get covered by material energy again. Okay, translation.
Therefore, my Lord, although I am living in a terrible condition, I do not wish to depart from my mother's abdomen to fall again into the blind well of materialistic life. Your external energy called Deva Maya at once captures the newly born child and immediately false identification, which is the beginning of the cycle of continual birth and death, begins.
So by now he's saying, I don't want to get out of this clutches of this material, of this womb of my mother. He says, Soham vasannapi vibho bahu dukkha vasam. Although I am suffering a lot here, I'm living in a terrible condition. Bahu dukkha vas. Vas means the condition is very terrible. Garbha na nirjigamishe. I don't want to get out of this. And because if after getting out of this, where will I go? Bahir andhakupe. I am going to fall in this andhakup only. This material world is full of terrible, illusion. Andhakupe. This word andhakupa comes many times. Anyone remembers anywhere else this word has come? Andhakupa. This material world is compared to a terrible, deep, dark well.
ग्रह अंधकूपे है ना उसमें आई थिंक कर्दम मुनि देवती दिस मैसेज आई थिंक
एकदम में नहीं आता है वो भी आता होगा बट प्रहलाद महाराज का है ना हित्वात्मपातम
हाँ हाँ
कूपम he says oh you are in a deep dark well. So there are various places. I can remember one more from Mukundmala Stotra where he's writing that oh my lord, my vivek shakti is stolen. Andasya merita vivek mahadhanasya चौरै प्रभो बलिविरिन्द्रिय नामधेयः मोहान्धकूपकुहरे विनिपातितस्य देवेश देहि कृपणस्य करावलम्बम्. He says, oh my lord, my vivek shakti is stolen by my senses. Blindly I am running in this jungle of material existence, fallen in this moha andha kupa kuhare. So he is saying the same thing. इधर से निकल के इसे हिंदी में बोलते हैं आसमान से गिरे खजूर पे कैसा हो जाएगा मेरा प्रॉब्लम. इधर से गिरूंगा वहां पर फिर से फंस जाऊंगा. व्हाट इज द यूज? यत्रोपयातम उपसरति देव माया. यत्र, here in this material world, what happens? Yatra upayatam means anyone who goes there. Upsarpati means captures who? The deva maya. कृष्ण भुलिया जीव भोग मांछा करे निकटस्थ माया तारे झापटिया धरे. झापटिया इज अ वेरी स्ट्रॉन्ग वर्ड. ऐसा नहीं कि प्रेम से पकड़ते, एकदम झपट के पकड़ लेती है. Material energy is really powerful. I can show you one very interesting video. I think I have shown how the material energy captures, but because we are all online, so एक अच्छा एक वीडियो आपको दिखाता हूँ. It is very interesting how Maya Devi is like. I think बहुत लोगों ने देखा भी होगा. Just give me one. Just find out.
有动静。
The video.
“这只翁失策了，这原来是一条蓄谋已久的毒蛇。” 这种猪尾泥角似乎有动静。
Okay, so that's how material energy really captures one. And we think we are enjoying. एक आपको और एक फनी वाला दिखाता हूँ। ये तो बहुत ही भोर वाला था। एक फनी वाला भी है मेरे पास, अच्छा सा वीडियो है। Can anyone see properly?
Yes, Prabhuji.
हाँ, ये बहुत ही exciting, interesting. That's how Maya. And we don't even realize. So therefore, this child is praying, "Oh my Lord, I don't want to get out of this material existence. Upsarpati Deva Maya Mithya Matir Yadano Samsriti Chakrametat." And after one gets into this material world, immediately one starts false identifying. Mithyamati. Mithyamati means false identification. This is me and this is mine. And because of that, what happens? Yad anu samsriti chakram, continuously one is in the cycle of birth and death. So that is described here. Srila Prabhupada writes, as long as child is in the womb of the mother, just a minute. As long as child is in the womb of the mother, he is in a very precarious and horrible condition. But the benefit is that he revives pure consciousness of his relation with the Supreme Lord. It doesn't happen with everyone. It only happens. But once he's out of human, the Maya energy is so strong that he is immediately overpowered into considering his body to be his self. As Thakur's that prayer is Janani Swajanira Pole. Now after coming out of this womb, he is happy, and all the relatives are taking care of the child, and he is thinking, I am the center of the universe. And then he starts playing with his friends, and then he goes to school and learns, and then becomes a big person, keeps running around, and ultimately वार्धक्य एको न भक्ति विनोद कांदिया कातर अति ना भजिया तोरे दिन वृत्ता गेलो एको न की हो बेगति. Now, in my old condition, Bhakti Vinod is crying. Of course, he is telling the situation of everyone. So that's what Prabhupada describes here in these purports. He doesn't realize real knowledge means to develop the consciousness that I am not this body, I am spirit, soul, part and parcel. But one forgets this under the influence of the material energy. And that's why Prabhupada quotes this Shukdev Goswami. He didn't want to come out because as soon as one comes out, one gets covered by material energy. Mame vaye prapadyante mayametam taranti te. We'll recite this 21st verse. Tasmadaham vigata viklavaish uddharishya
तस्मादहं
atmanamashutamasa suridatmanaiva
आत्मानं तमसा सुहृदात्मनैव
भूयो यथा व्यसनमेतदनेकरन्ध्रम्
यो यथा
भूयो यथा व्यसने मते निरन्तरम्
मामे भविष्यदुपसारितविष्णुपादः.
मे भविष्यत्
मामे भविष्यदुपसादितात् विष्णुपादः.
Translation.
Without being agitated anymore, I shall deliver myself from the darkness of nescience with the help of my friend, clear consciousness. Simply by keeping the lotus feet of the Lord Vishnu in my mind, I shall be saved from entering into homes of many mothers for repeated birth and death.
Yeah. So after in the last verse, the Jiva prays, I don't want to come out. So the Lord says, okay, what have you decided? Tell me first. Do you want to come out or do you want to stay here? So the living entity is this Jiva. He is a self-realized soul now. He says, even in the womb, I have given up suffering. I will deliver myself from samsara by my friend intelligence, the chariot driver which has been given by you, so that I will not in the future have a misfortune of again having a body of 9 gates. Anekarandram. This is a famous analogy. It is always described. The body is a chariot, this intelligence is a chariot driver. So he says, you have given me a good intelligence, that is a wonderful chariot driver. I will not take birth again in this world. Now I am not suffering. As it is said, miseries are compulsory, suffering is optional. A self-realized soul doesn't suffer. He accepts whatever comes in the life, understanding it as a will of the Lord. So Prabhupada writes, the miseries of material existence begin from the very day the soul enters the womb of the mother. It is not that after coming out of the womb the miseries start. The best thing, therefore, is to develop Krishna consciousness. Upasadita Vishnu Padaha. The child prays that it is better to remain in the womb of darkness and be constantly absorbed in Krishna consciousness than to get out and fall again into to a victim of illusory energy. And then he says, Krishna is the best friend. Suridatmanaiva. In Bhagavad Gita also it is said that one's intelligence is his friend and the same intelligence can be his enemy. Here, Krishna, not Krishna, here our intelligence is mentioned as the best friend. There in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says the mind is the best friend. Bandhuratmatmanastasya yenatmaivatmana jita anatmanastu shatrutve vartetatmaiva shatruvat. Here, same thing is quoted about intelligence also by Prabhupada. If intelligence is controlled, then it is a best friend. If it is an uncontrolled, if it is corrupted, then it is an enemy. Generally, we have heard the sequence, the hierarchy. In 3.41, Krishna says, Bhagavad Gita, Indriyani paranyahu indriyebhya param mana manasastu parabuddhi. Ideally, intelligence should control the mind. But our intelligence is garbad only. Our intelligence is on the side of the mind. If the mind says, अच्छा लग रहा है, intelligence will say, कैसे लेंगे उसको? Intelligence will not say, Baba, it is not good for you. Intelligence will plan. ये गली में अच्छा पाव भाजी मिल रहा है, लास्ट टाइम खाया था पेट गड़बड़ हुआ था. No, that intelligence will not say. So that's how, and even in devotional service, intelligence should actually give good guidance, but because the mind is so very powerful, it overpowers the intelligence also. Intelligence is now corrupted. It is contaminated material intelligence. That's the story of Puranjan. We'll see in the fourth canto, one of the last few chapters of the fourth canto describes the story of Puranjan. This Puranjan meets Puranjani. This Puranjani is the material contaminated intelligence. It is sattvic intelligence, but still it is material intelligence. That Puranjani there is a material sattvic intelligence, which propels and impels one to do sense gratification in a pious way. But the more we take shelter of Bhakti and read Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam and scriptures, our intelligence gets purified of that contamination. That's why the last words of third chapter Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that by this intelligence, cut off this enemy of lust. Now, that is the last verse of the third chapter. Just a minute. Last verse, Bhagavad Gita. Yeah. It says, Evam buddhve param buddhva samstabhyatman atmana. Vajahishatrum mahabaho kamarupam durasadam. With the superior intelligence. What is the superior intelligence? That is spiritual intelligence. Spirit, that is, the chanting purifies the mind, scriptures purify the intelligence, and association purifies false ego. So the more we take shelter of these three things, we are purified to take shelter of Krishna. So Prabhupada writes about that. Suridatmana, the friendly intelligence, absorption of intelligence in personal service of Krishna and full consciousness of Krishna always are the path of self-realization. It begins by chanting. Now, Prabhupada asks a question. It may be questioned how the child can be fully Krishna conscious within the womb of the mother without any paraphernalia with which to execute bhakti. कैसे कर रहा है वो बेचारा, जब कैसे करेगा, माला किधर से आया उसके? He says it is not necessary to arrange paraphernalia to worship Vishnu. Bhakti is, what is the quality of bhakti? No externals are needed. What is the term which is used always? Bhakti can be performed in any circumstance. There is no obstacle which can stop one to practice bhakti. So क्या बोलते हैं? It is apratihata. Anyone can practice in any circumstance, in any situation. So the child wants to remain within the womb of the mother and at the same time wants to become free from the clutches. One does not need any material arrangement to cultivate bhakti. Only thing is one has to think of Krishna. That's it. And Prabhupada writes, कैसे भी कर सकते हैं? One can chant while sleeping. तो होता है बहुत बार हमारा. One can chant while sleeping, while working, while imprisoned in the womb or while outside. Krishna consciousness cannot be checked in any circumstance. Okay, so now, Kapila, after describing this beautiful prayer, so he says, Prabhupada writes, the conclusion of the child's prayer is that let me remain in this condition, although it is very miserable. It is better not to fall a victim to Maya again by going outside. That's a self-realized soul. Not everybody can pray like that. It is miserable, take me out, because nobody wants misery in this world. Everyone wants to stop misery. A few days back, one of very senior devotees, sannyasis, Bhakti Rasayan Sagar Maharaj. He preaches in Russia. And he was telling some of the stories of how Russian devotees, they suffered, what they all went through in the communist regime time. And he was telling that they were the best moments. For them, they were really absorbed. And they actually cherish those moments when they were really absorbed, really enthusiastic. So that's how when people they go into distress situations, if a devotee is really absorbed in Krishna, he says, Chalega, I don't want to come out of this. Just like Haridas Thakur, when he was put in that prison, he saw so many of the other, shopkeepers were kept there. They were tortured, they were beaten, and they were really praying to the Lord, help me. They are praying to Haridas Thakur, please help us. Haridas Thakur said, let you remain in this situation forever. So they thought, Arey, kya bol rahe hain? Already we are suffering, and he is giving this benediction. So Haridas Thakur said, no, because you're so very conscious of Krishna. That is the important thing. So more one is self-realized, the more the miseries become opportunities to advance. Okay, so now after describing the prayers of Jiva in the womb of the mother, Kapiladev, he continues. Now, after this, 22nd to 31st verse, Kapiladev describes the suffering of the Jiva after he comes out of the womb. अभी तक तो अंदर का suffering हो गया था. Now, he comes out of the womb. Kapila uvacha evam kritamati garbhe
Evam kritamate garbe
dashamasyastu vanrishihi
Tasya
asyastu
masyastu
van
van
rishi
rishi
sadya kshipatyavachinam
sandhyashipatya
Adhyatipatya
avachinam
prasutye sutimarutah.
prasute suti marutaha.
Lord Kapila continued, the 10-month-old living entity has these desires even while in the womb. But while he thus extols the Lord, the wind that helps alternation propels him forth with his face turned downward so that he may be born.
Now 10th month has come. Now he is pushed by the Suti Vata, by the airs of parturition. He is pushed down. So Chakravarti Thakur writes, deciding in this way that he will worship Krishna, praising the Lord, he becomes wise. He will not come into the world. Now, here the misfortunate condition of afflicted jiva described in the previous chapter. और क्या होता है? So, अभी तक कौन से जीवा का डिस्क्रिप्शन आ रहा था? A devotee jiva. After this, now Kapil Dev switches to the description of the sinful living entity. Last chapter में जो बताया था, जो बेचारा suffering from the hell and all those situations, he has come to human body. So he describes now that condition, that living entity. The air causing birth, Suti Marutaha, quickly moves the body about to enter samsara in order for birth to take place during the 10th month. It is understood that he who is wise comes out of the womb without movements of the birth air. This is something interesting. The liberated soul is not pushed down. He comes without that. If one desires to explain this verse in terms of one jiva, then it can mean the wise jiva, having determination, praises the Lord, but the birth air pushes him out. He is helplessly pushed out of the womb of the mother. Tena vasrishta sahasa krita kritva vakashira aturaha
Kritva Bhavastira Atura
Nishkramati Krichrena
Vinishkramati Kritrena
Shvaso Hatasmriti.
Vishwaso Hata Smritihi.
Pushed downward all of a sudden by the wind, the child comes out with great trouble, head downward, breathless and deprived of memory due to severe agony.
So do people ask why we forget whatever we went through in the womb of the mother and the previous lives. This misery of coming out of the womb wipes out all our, memory. As they say, desktop memory is wiped out. All the files are still stored in the hard disk, but we can't access those memories. The severe agony wipes out all the memory. Prabhupada writes, sometimes the trouble is so severe, the child comes out dead or almost dead. One can't imagine what the pangs of birth are like. Therefore, in Bhagavad Gita, Lord points out one is serious in advancement in spiritual life should always consider the four pangs. Janma mrityu jara dvyadi dukkha doshanu darshanam. Okay, now next verse translation.
The child thus falls on the ground, smeared with stool and blood, and placed just like a worm germinated from the stool. He loses his superior knowledge and cries under the spell of Maya.
Yes, now he is crying. His knowledge of previous existence is gone and becomes forgetful of that state. Gata jnane and viparitam gati forgets all the previous lives. He forgets what he went through. Even a devotee jiva's knowledge is generally covered from childhood because of the nature of things. By a little association, he has his previous impressions aroused and attains the Lord by his devotion. Even a devotee forgets that. Only when a devotee enters in the life of this devotee jiva, then all the previous memories get again aroused. Prak Janma Anusikshitam, either in some difficult situations, one remembers the past life, or when one devotee comes and gives the process of devotion. So that is understanding. Okay, next verse. Translation.
After coming out of the abdomen, the child is given to the care of persons who are unable to understand what he wants, and thus he is nursed by such persons. Unable to refuse whatever is given to him, he falls into undesirable circumstances.
Yeah. So why the child is crying? Mother knows little bit. Most of the time, we try so many things. इससे शांत होगा, उससे शांत होगा, क्या चाहिए इसको? Can't understand. The child is suffering. Why? Some insect is biting, or he's hungry, or what is happening? So Prabhupada, also this verse explains that. Prabhupada writes, within the abdomen of the mother, the nourishment of the child was being carried out by the nature's arrangement. Atmosphere within the abdomen was not at all pleasing. But as far as feeding was concerned, it was done properly. But after coming out, it is not like that. He wants to eat something, another thing is given. उसको मीठा खाना है, उसको नमकीन दिया जा रहा है. No one knows his actual demand, and he cannot refuse the undesirables given to him. Sometimes the child cries for mother's breast. The nurse thinks it is due to pain within the stomach he is crying, and he supplies him some bitter medicine. Okay, next verse. Translation, please.
Laid down on a foul bed infested with sweat and germs, the poor child is incapable of scratching his body to get relief from his itching sensation, to say nothing of sitting up, standing, or even moving.
So such descriptions, when we hear, we may see, well, not all the children, they are laid down in a foul bed infested with sweat and germs. But Bhagavatam describes a context. The previous chapter described a sinful living entity. So such sinful living entity, even if he enters in a human body, he will not be given a very aristocratic body. He may take birth in a very poor family or a sinful family, and they may go through all the situations. The things may not be so clean. So Prabhupada writes, it should be noted that the child is born crying and suffering. The suffering continues, and the child is unable to take any remedial measure for his relief. Next verse, translation.
In his helpless condition, gnats, mosquitoes, bugs, and other germs bite the baby, whose skin is tender, just as smaller worms bite a big worm. The child, deprived of his wisdom, cries bitterly.
Yes. So he has forgotten all the wisdom. Vigata Jnanam, the word used here is Vigata Jnanam. Rudantam Vigata Jnanam. So the child, as he was in the womb, he is lost to the spell of Maya, Prabhupada writes. Already lost. In the womb, whatever he went through, he has lost all the wisdom. And now he cannot remember, he cannot even explain and express what he wants. It is assumed that even if a person acquires some spiritually uplifting knowledge, circumstantially he is prone to forget it. Not only children, but also elderly persons should be careful to protect their Krishna consciousness and avoid unfavorable circumstances so that they may not forget their prime duty. So Prabhupada is writing a very, very powerful statement here. Even old men, or for that matter, everyone, not just children or elderly people, everyone should be very, very careful, especially practicing devotees, because Maya Devi is so cunning. When we will, go away from spiritual life, when we will get distracted and deviated, will not even realize. Maya Devi will never say, okay, from today you stop chanting. For a devotee, for a non-devotee, she will say, you should never take to bhakti, never take to spiritual life. They are all foolish people, good for nothing, wasting time. For devotee, Maya Devi से पक्का करना है, chanting ही करना है कल से, आज नहीं करेंगे. Or you don't become so serious now. So the sense of, as it is described, a serious devotee is described by a sense of purpose and sense of urgency. What is the purpose of my life? Otherwise, in due course of doing our services also, in spiritual life, in bhakti also, in due course of doing our services, we should never forget what is the purpose of my services. It is to remember Krishna. It is to be conscious of Krishna, not just doing services. By those services, we have to make ourselves conscious of Krishna. Otherwise, services will be done, but we will lose the actual purpose of our services, to be conscious of Krishna. So we have to protect the sense of Krishna consciousness, avoid unfavorable circumstance. Okay, next verse. Translation.
In this way, the child passes through his childhood, suffering different kinds of distress, and attains boyhood. In boyhood also, he suffers pain over desires to get things he can never achieve, and thus, due to ignorance, he becomes angry and sorry.
These are the situations the child goes through. Is if he doesn't get what he wants, he's angry, he cries. So Prabhupada writes some of the things What is Pauganda? He says, Pauganda Kaumara, Pauganda Yauvana. So Pauganda, from birth to 5 years is called childhood. 5 years to 15 is Pauganda. Then 16 onwards is Yauvana. So distresses of the childhood are explained when the child attains boyhood. Now, अभी बचपन में क्या हो गया सब बता दिया. Now he is a big boy. He is enrolled in a school which he does not like. He wants to play, but he is forced to go to school and take responsibility for passing examination. Because video दिखाऊंगे आपको, अच्छा एक video. Now the child doesn't like to go to school. भी एक अच्छा वीडियो आपको दिखाता हूँ. थोड़ा लंबा वीडियो है. I'm not able to find that video. I'll show you sometime how children are.
સ્કૂલમાં એ નહીં, સ્કૂલમાં જવાનું
So
We cannot see anything.
Not able to see?
we can't hear or see.
Prabhuji, not able to see, not able to hear, nothing.
अभी तक कोई बोला नहीं मेरे को. Anyways, I think वो sharing में कुछ problem हो गया. Just a minute. ये वाला आया था. Last video was heard properly.
Yes, Prabhuji.
एक मिनट ये वाला भी मैं थोड़ा दोबारा ट्राई करता हूँ. I thought it was working nicely. You can see the screen?
Yes, yes.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Actually opening, yes, we can see.
स्कूल से ही छुटकारा चाहिए 1 महीने
अभी
है ना સાચી વાત ને
સાચી વાત છે. સ્કૂલમાં એ નહીં, સ્કૂલમાં જવાનું, સવારે ઉઠવાનું.
સવારે તો ઉઠવાનું પહેલું પાછું 6 વાગે જેનો સ્કૂલનો ટાઈમ હોય એટલા વાગે ઉઠવાનું પછી બ્રશ કરવાનો પાણી
ફટાફટ
પીવાનું
બધું
પહેલા ઉઠીને પાણી પીવાનું બ્રશ કરો ફટાફટ દૂધ પીને તૈયાર થઈને સ્કૂલ ભાગો ચલો સ્કૂલમાં જઈ બેઠો ચલો સ્કૂલ અને 1 ઘંટા પઢો મેથ્સ ઈવીએસ इंग्लिश
પછી
पूरे महीने
पहला prayer
फिर पहले प्रेयर फिर इंग्लिश फिर मैथ्स फिर ईवीएस फिर गुजराती फिर जीके जीके मतलब मैथ्स हाँ हमें
मैडम आपको अगर जो ये स्कूल बनाने वाला मिल गया तो आप क्या करोगे?
मैं उसे दोगे ना पूरी पानी डाल दूंगा इस्त्री कर डालूंगी पूरी घर में
उसको पूछोगे कि तुझने सब कुछ अच्छा बनाया है भगवान ने?
हाँ तो बस पढ़ना क्यों करना मना पढ़ना भी थोड़ा अच्छा ही तो मना देता तो हमको भी मजा आता.
राइट. तो भी मोदी को क्या कहना चाहते हो?
हराना ही पड़ेगा.
क्यों हराना पड़ेगा मोदी को?
अरे मोदी ये क्या गलत कर रहा है अब तक?
क्या किया?
उसने ये जो किया है ना,
पढ़ना बना
पढ़ना मना ही आई क्यों? वो पहले मुझे बात जान के मुझसे धोकर पानी पानी कर देना है।
अच्छा, फिर और स्टेमिना
दूसरी बात,
सिस्टर क्या करती है? वो सिस्टर आके
तो फिर घर पे आओ 1 बजे के बाद,
हाँ
खाओ, फिर वो उसका होमवर्क कर लो और फिर ट्यूशन जाओ, ट्यूशन से 4 बजे आओ, आओ और उसका होमवर्क करने बैठ जाओ ट्यूशन का।
तो पूरा दिन पढ़ने का ही?
और फिर शाम को 4 बजे नहीं, स्कूल का जो होमवर्क बाकी है वो करके सोने का, फिर उठने का शाम को 4 बजे, उठ के बाद वापस ट्यूशन जाने का, ट्यूशन से आके घर पे आने का, घर पे आके 5 बजे घर पे आने का, घर पे आके वापस
पढ़ने
का उसका ट्यूशन का, और फिर जो थोड़ा स्कूल का
बाकी रह गया वो भी करना,
वो भी करने का, और फिर थोड़ी देर खेल के थोड़ा और कर लेने का ट्यूशन का, और
तो
फिर देखो
पूरा दिन पढ़ने का।
रात को स्केटिंग क्लास में जाने का।
तो पूरा दिन पढ़ने में जाता है।
स्केटिंग के बाद ना घर पे आके वो स्केटिंग करेंगे, स्केटिंग के बाद ना कौन सी क्लास में जाने का बताओ? ड्राइंग क्लास, ड्राइंग में जो ड्राइंग सीखो और घर पे आके वो ड्राइंग बना के अच्छे से कलर करो।
अब जब होमवर्क ही नहीं करते तो पापा क्या बोलते हैं? बापो शू कहता रहो?
अरे पापा क्या डांट खाओ, मम्मी की दूसरी साइड डांट खाओ, सुबह उठो वापस,
टीचर की डांट खाओ,
टीचर की डांट खाओ, सिस्टर की डांट खाओ, प्रोफेसर की डांट खाओ, सर की डांट खाओ,
ये सब
पीटी में जाओ।
ये सब किस वजह से होता है? पढ़ने से ही?
पढ़ना ही है, मुझे पूरा यकीन है। मुझे थक गई मैं, मुझे तो इन टीचरों से, सर से और सिस्टर से छुटकारा चाहिए।
वो कैसे मिलेगा?
अब तो इस मोदी को धो के इन सिस्टर्स, टीचर एंड सर को उस पे ही बंद कर देने का।
मोदी को हरा देंगे
और फिर टीचर, सिस्टर एंड सर को उस स्कूल में लॉक
बंद करके
और सारी स्कूल्स को
चूहे छोड़ देंगे
और सारी स्कूल्स को छोड़ देंगे हम।
बच्चों को क्या बोलोगे?
और अब जितना महीना सोना है सो लो। और उन टीचर्स को तो प्लीज कड़ी में भेज दो।
हाँ, चूहे स्कूल में चूहे छोड़ दो।
स्कूल में ही ना, स्कूल में ही उनको एक ऐसे रूम में लॉक कर देने का,
फिर चूहे छोड़ देने के।
हाँ, और फिर चूहे छोड़ देने की, और फिर बोलने का
ओके। हरे कृष्णा, है ना? क्या बेचारे बच्चे लोग को होता है। ओके, एनीवेज, सो ज्यादा एक्सप्लेन नहीं करूंगा, दिस वन वीडियो इज इनफ। That's how children they go to frustration, as यहाँ पे लिखा है, they become angry, whatever. Okay, next verse, translation.
In this way, with the growth of the body, the living entity, in order to vanquish his soul, increases his false prestige and anger, and thereby creates enmity towards similarly lusty people.
Yeah. So now this living entity, child passing through the boyhood, is going through the youthhood now. With the growth of the body, he is now developing all his lusty desires. He increases his false pride, anger, and as the body develops, all the previous inclinations, they start coming out. Prabhupada quotes this verse, why a living entity does a sinful activity. Athakena prayuktoyam papam charati purushaha anichannapi varshneya baladiva niyojitaha. Why a living entity does sinful thing? It is because of lust. Kama esha, krodha esha, rajoguna samudbhavaha, maha ashana, maha papma. It is the most voracious, sinful living entity, enemy of the living entity. So this living entity, now he is in the boyhood and going to youthhood, he develops all his sinful tendencies, lusty desires, and he becomes more and more implicated in sinful things. Prabhupada writes, A lust which causes a living entity to glide down, this lust circumstantially changes into anger. Krodha is called as Kama Anuja. It is a younger brother of lust. If lust is there, that means Krodha. If the Krodha is there, lust has to be there. If somebody is becoming angry over wrong things, that means lust has to be there. Lust is the transformation of the mode of passion, and in the absence of satisfaction of the lust, when the lust is frustrated, it becomes anger. And then Prabhupada describes that we can use all these propensities also in serving Krishna. This lust, anger, greed, pride, and illusion, envy cannot be used in Krishna service. Kama Krishna karmarpane krodha bhakta dveshi jane. Due to our lust, we want to many things for our own sense gratification, but the same lust can be transformed in a purified way so that we want everything for satisfaction of Krishna. Krodha bhakta dveshi jane. As Bhagavad Gita also Krishna says, there are three gates to hell: lust, anger, and greed. Trividham narkasyedam dwaram nashama atmanha kama krodha tatha lova tasmadeta trayam tyajet. Give up these three enemies. Srila Rupa Goswami has recommended that because in material existence, we have so many objects of sense gratification, which we need for maintenance of body. We should use all of them for satisfying the senses of Krishna. That is Yukta Vairagya, actual renunciation. Anasaktasya Vishayan Yatharham Upayunjataha Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe Yukta Vairagyam Uchyate. That is actual renunciation. Next verse, translation.
By such ignorance, the living entity accepts the material body, which is made of 5 elements, as himself. With this misunderstanding, he accepts non-permanent things as his own and increases his ignorance in the darkest region.
Yeah. So the more one considers that I am this body and things in relation to this body are mine, the more they go into the lower conceptions of life. Prabhupada writes, one should start working in the understanding that everything belongs to Krishna and we are supposed to serve Krishna. Yagyarthat karmano anyatra. Tad artham kurute karma yad buddho yati samskritam. Tad artham kurute. For the sake of body, one does all the sinful things. Tad artham. Tad means for the sake of body. One does activities by which he is bound. And Prabhupada takes this word tad artham and he says we should do all the activity for tat artha, means to satisfy Krishna. Yagyarthat karmano anyatra loko ayam karma bandhana. When we serve Krishna, work for Krishna, we are free of all the bondage. Otherwise, anything we do for our own self, we are bound. And then Prabhupada writes how in the modern civilization, the second paragraph Prabhupada writes, the leaders mislead people more and more under the bodily conceptions. Andhayathandi upaniyamana, blind following the blind, and both fall into the deep dark well. So that's how a living entity, he is trying to enjoy, trying to get more and more things for sense gratification. Adare rachele swajane rakole hasya kata nukala. He is enjoying his life with his family members. Swajane rakole. Janaka janani snehete bhuliya samsara lagilo bhalo. Forgot that there are miseries of this world also. And now, as he is trying to enjoy, he is realizing, oh, things are not so good as we discussed, as I thought. And then, because this living entity already had a sinful disposition, because he had lived a sinful life, 32nd to 48 verses. he describes, Kapildev describes what happens to this personality, this living entity. He falls down in bad association. Yadyasadbhi pathi punah
Yasadi pati puna
nodara kritodyamai
Udarapito Dyamai
asito ramate jantu
Jantu
tamo vishati purva.
Tama Vishnu.
If
If
therefore
therefore the living entity again associates with the path of unrighteousness, influenced by sensually minded people engaged in the pursuit of sexual enjoyment and the gratification of the palate, he again goes to hell as
Yes. Yadi asadbhi pathi, this asadbhi pathi, this living entity again gets on the path of asat patha. Asat means bad association. Shishna uddara kritodyamai. In that association, what happens? He associates with people who are sensual, who are already absorbed in sense gratification. Shishna udar parayana. For the pleasure of the belly and the genitals, they are working. Kritodyamai. People in the world, they are working only for this thing. Astito ramate jantu. He gets absorbed in all these things again. And the result is what? Again, he falls down in hellish situation. Tamo vishati purvavat. जैसे पहले नरक में गया था वापस नरक में जाता है. Prabhupada writes, this conditioned soul was put into Tamishra, under Tamishra, and now suffering through hellish situation like body, and then going through hog and dog body. Again, he got a human being. Bichara again because of his association with sinful people, materialistic people, concerned with sexual life and sense gratification, again glides down. Chalta rehta hai. He is in the merry-go-round, sometimes up, sometimes down. Again goes to the human species because now he has again developed bad association, again he will fall down. Material life means eat, drink, and be merry and enjoy. No concern for understanding one's spiritual identity and process of spiritual advancement. When Srila Prabhupada was on a morning walk in the Western world somewhere, and they passed by a river, and one person was fishing. He had just, fished out one. As he sees Prabhupada walking with his disciples, he thought that, oh, he's some saintly person, wanted to offer something. He had fish only. So he comes and says, Swamiji, this is for you. Western world, they don't have understanding. Prabhupada, he didn't say, oh, we don't eat all this, it's sinful. Prabhupada was very polite. He said, you enjoy. And then he walked few steps ahead, and then he said, and suffer. So a living entity, although thinks that he's enjoying, but the suffering is guaranteed. To associate with such materialistic people is to commit purposeful suicide. Purposefully. Nishkinchanasya bhagavad bhajanonmukhasya param param jigimasho bhavasagarasya sandarshanam vishayina matayoshitam cha ha hanta hanta vishabhakshana topya sadhu. People who are on the path of self-realization, Nishkinchana, they have given up all their possessions. Bhagavad Bhajan Unmukha, they have turned their face towards Krishna, towards Bhajana. They want to cross Param, Param, Jigimasho. What they should do? Two things. They should avoid Sandarshanam, Vishaynam, Athayoshitam. Avoid Vishay and Vishay. Avoid sense objects. Avoid people who are doing sense gratification. That's what Prabhupada writes. Intelligent person should give up such undesirable association. In association, all the sinful tendencies get destroyed. One develops spiritual consciousness. Prabhupada says, It is also found that people are very much addicted to a particular type of religious faith. Hindu, Muslim, Christian are faithful in their particular type of religion. But they cannot give up sinful association. Anywhere, this is everywhere. People may be going to church or mosque or temple, but they'll do sinful activities also. And as a result of this, they'll glide down to the darkest region again. Satyam Shaucham Daya Maunam Buddhi Shri Rirya Shakshama Bhagascheti Sangadhyati Sanshayam.
He becomes
Void of
void of
fullness,
fullness, mercy, gravity, spiritual intelligence, shyness, austerity, fame, forgiveness, control of mind, control of the mind, control of the senses, fortune, and all such opportunities.
So, because of associating with sinful people, materialistic people, he loses all the good qualities. Materialistic association destroys all the good qualities. Satya, Shaucha, Daya, Maun, Buddhi, Shri, Ri, Yasha, all these things are lost. That's how association is so very deadly. The Walter Scott, one of the very famous persons, he said, a rusty nail kept behind a faithful compass can sway even an argosy. Argosy is a huge ship. Even if you put a rusty nail besides that compass, which is showing the direction, that is sufficient to sway the needle of that compass. So that's how association is. And then he describes what is that bad association. In the next verse, he describes what is that bad association which is described, which he associates with. Who is that person? Teshu ashanteshu mudeshu Khanditatma swadar asadushu Sangam na kuryashocheshu
Kuryachocheshu
Damrigeshu cha.
Yoshit Kridamrigeshu.
one should not associate with a coarse fool who is barefoot of the knowledge of the self-realization and who is no more than a dancing dog in the hands of a woman. Hare
So one should not associate with such people who are absorbed in sense gratification, absorbed in association with opposite gender. Teshu, with those, ashanteshu, they are grossly absorbed in sense gratification. Mudeshu, fool. The more one engages in sense gratification, one becomes dull to spiritual realities. They'll be very sharp in material things. It is not that they'll become materially dull. Materially, they are very intelligent. You know, this Bhagavatam, this description of the Kali Yuga people, Alpa Ayusha, Manda, Sumanda Matayo, this is not material intelligence. You will see material people, they are very intelligent, even if they are doing the grossest of the sense gratification. And we've seen the students in the hostels, colleges. Students may be taking drugs also, smoking also, drinking also, but they'll do their studies nicely. 15 दिन पहले they will stop everything and they study whole day and night and they'll pass also with good marks. So that is material civilization in the mode of ignorance. So because this world is it is supporting material intelligence, so people they become dull to spiritual realities, not material intelligence. Ashanteshu mudeshu, this mudha, it is not material intelligence, it is spiritual intelligence. Khandit atmasu asadhusu. Khandit atma asadhu. Khandit atma means one becomes bereft of self-realization. He becomes wicked. Therefore, sangam na kuryat. One should never associate with such people. They're like that. They are like dancing dogs. This word comes many times in Bhagavatam. Yoshit krida mrigeshu cha. Prachina Barhi tells this. And who tells this? Yayati tells this. There are, few times it is described like that. The restriction of association with such foolish people is especially meant for those who are in line of advancement in Krishna consciousness. In Krishna consciousness, one should see that these qualities are coming. If they are not coming, that means there is some problem. In Bhagavad Gita also, in that series in 13th chapter, Amanitvam, Adambitvam, Ahimsa, Shanti, 13.8 to 12, Prabhupada writes there, one should see that these qualities are coming in their behavior. If they're not coming, then there is some problem. All these qualities are to be manifested. It is not that ek mil gaya na bas, no, all these, of course, to a bigger or to a smaller extent, but all these qualities should be developed. But if one associates with Shudra, he cannot make any progress. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya has advised. This is a verse, Nishkinchanasya Bhagavad Bhajanon. Prabhupada is quoting that verse here. So, Kapila Dev, he is forbidding such association in these three verses. Sangam na kuryat. Never associate. He continues. What happens when one associates with a Vishayi? Na tathasya bhaven moho.
Tasya bhaven moho
Sangatah.
bandhaschanya prasangataha
Sangad yatha pumso.
yoshi sangadyatha punso
Tat sangi sangatah.
tha tat sangi sangataha.
The infatuation and bondage which accrue to a man from attachment to any other object is not as complete as that resulting from attachment to women or to the fellowship of men who are fond of women.
So, 7 verses describes the dangers of opposite sex. Na tatha asya bhaven moho. This infatuation of association with yoshit, opposite gender, and yatha pumso, one who engages in sense gratification. ये दो चीजों से जो infatuation होता है, if somebody associates with these two people, there is no more infatuation in this world than this. Bandha cha anya prasangatah. No other object gives more infatuation and attachment than these two things. Yoshit Sangat and Yatha Tat Sangi. Bas. Vishaya and Vishayi. ये दो चीजें, they bind a person to this world. So that's how we should be very, very careful. And Prabhupada describes how in this world association with women is so very strong. Entire world is full of, all the advertisements are full of pictures of women. To advertise anything, a lady is needed. Even to sell a cement bag, a lady is needed. So that is the condition of the modern civilization. She'll have nothing to do with that, but still, people will see the lady and then they'll see acha kya hai. So that's how this entire world is running under the influence of sex life. Next verse, translation. Then he gives an example how this attachment is so very powerful. Even the firstborn living entity got distracted. Translation.
At the sight of his daughter, Brahma was bewildered by her charms and shamelessly ran up to her in the form of a stag when she took the form of a hen.
Prabhupada gives example of Mohini Murti also and Brahmaji also. How one should be so very careful. Matra swastra duhitrava na viviktasano bhavet balavan indriya gramam vidvamsham apicha karshati. One should not freely mix even when one's daughter, mother, or sister. Senses are so strong. When one becomes infatuated, senses do not consider the relation between any of them. Therefore, one should practice Bhakti Yoga. Madan Mohan can destroy the effects of Cupid. That's why in one of the verses in 28th chapter we heard Kapila described that one should meditate on the eyebrows of the Lord for a long time. Hasam Hare Ravanata Kilaloka Tibra Shokashu Sagar Vishoshanamatyudaram Sammohanaya Rachitam Nijamaya Yasya Rumandalam Munikrite Makarajasya Munikrite. Just for the sake of all the saintly people, Lord has manifested his beautiful eyebrows. Take darshan of that eyebrow, and they are like the bow. And when we take darshan of the Lord's eyebrows, the glance of the Lord falls on us. They are like the arrow. That arrow will destroy the arrows of Cupid. That is what Prabhupada is writing here. And very famous verse. It is so very interesting and amazing. Kapila Dev, he is teaching all this to his mother. And she is telling, and he is telling this. Again and again, he is telling how association with women is so very dangerous. And she's also saying, yes, yes, barabar bol raha. She's accepting because she understands it's not just about association with women, it is association with opposite gender. Tata srishta srishta srishteshu Khandita Dhipuman
Khandita Dhipuman
Narayanam Vrite
Rishi Narayanam Rute
Mayaya
Yoshin Mayya Mayaya. Amongst all kinds of living entities begotten by Brahma, namely men, demigods, and animals, none but the sage Narayana is immune to the attraction of Maya in the form of woman.
Nobody can avoid this attraction of opposite gender. Nobody is immune. Srishta, Srishta, jitni bhi Srishti hai, there is nobody who is akhandita dhi. Akhandita dhi means whose intelligence never gets deviated unless he is a purified soul. But still, in the fifth canto, it is described Rishabdev, who is Lord himself. He appeared in this world, taught his 100 sons, and then he became a avadhuta, wandering around naked like a dull man. People were spitting at him, throwing stones at him, passing stool and urine on him, foul air on him. He didn't retaliate. And he was practicing a particular type of yoga, which is called as Jada Yoga. And by his practice of Jada Yoga, Siddhis approached him. The mystic Siddhis approached him. Shukdev Goswami says he didn't accept them. He rejected those mystic Siddhis. So Parikshit Maharaj asks a very logical question. Why he didn't accept them? He is the Supreme Lord. He could have used it in service of humanity. Parikshit Maharaj says, yes, whatever you're saying. Shukdev Goswami says, yes, whatever you're saying is right. But one should never ever trust the mind. However great one may be, Supreme Lord is showing by his personal example. I can't trust my mind. For Lord, mind and his Atma is all same, it is all spiritual. But still, he is setting an example. Nobody should trust the mind. Konu akhandita dhi, there is nobody who is akhandita dhi, even the pure souls. Haridas Thakur didn't go in the house of prostitution and said, I will deliver this prostitute. She came. So, however great one may be, one should be really careful because there is nobody who is immune to this apart from Narayana. Tetadishanam ishasya prakritistopi tadgunai na yujyate sadatmasthe yatha buddhi tadashraya. The divinity of the Supreme Divine is that he is not affected by the modes. And similarly, the pure devotees also don't get affected. Yoshin Mayye Hamaya. Prabhupada writes. With Brahma, Marichi, Brahma created Marichi, who created Kashyapa, Kashyap created, and all the Manus were created. None among them is not attracted by the spell of Maya in the form of a woman. Everyone should be very careful. And then he gives another very strong example. Another very interesting verse. Just see the power of the illusory energy in the form of a woman. Balam me pashya maya.
बलं मे पश्य मायाया
Trimaya jaino disham.
त्रिमय्या जयिनो दिशाम्
Pradakrantan.
या करोति पदाक्रान्ता ब्रूहि जीवितेन केवलम्.
Just try to understand the mighty strength of my Maya in the shape of women, who, by the mere movement of her eyebrows, can keep the greatest conqueror of the world under.
So very, very powerful verses. Prabhupada gives a very classic example of Julius Caesar. He was so powerful. He had conquered practically a vast amount of land. Wherever he had this, slogan, Veni, Vedi, Vici. I went, I saw, I conquered. And he was so powerful, so influential. But he knew I should not be this, pride should not enter my mind. So what he would do, as he would ride in his chariot in this kingdom, all the citizens would assemble on the both sides and they would start shouting, Caesar, Caesar, Caesar. It was like a regular thing. So this person, Caesar, he had kept a bodyguard behind him. He was always there. And he had one more job. Whenever people would shout all these slogans glorifying Caesar, he would keep on speaking. You are also mortal, Caesar. You are also mortal. You will also die. Just to keep him grounded. Because he knew the more, if this praise gets into my brain, I'll not be able to function properly. You are also mortal. So, and this one, Cleopatra. The story of this lady is, very huge story. She was very, very influential. She wanted to actually rule. She was like, the next neighboring country. She wanted kingdom. She wanted power. And she once, entered, she told her people that she'll be in a very nice box. She went inside covered with some nice cloth. And she told, just take me to Caesar as a gift. And then her men, they carried this huge box carrying Cleopatra inside. Because this Caesar was not allowing her to, rule. She wanted to do something. She wanted to just put him down. She entered the palace, and as this box was opened, Cleopatra came out of this box. She completely him with her beauty, charmed him, and he became like a pet dog. Such a powerful king. He was running on the movements of Cleopatra on the fingers. So the story is very elaborate about this. We'll not go into the history of what all Cleopatra did. So Prabhupada just quotes this story. There are instances in the history of the world of a great conquerors being captivated by the charm of Cleopatra. One has to study the captivating potency of women. And that's how Prabhupada writes. He again, emphasizes the same principle. The more one takes shelter of Krishna, the more one will be protected. And Prabhupada gives the example of Haridas Thakur. How when this prostitute came, he didn't get affected. When Maya Devi herself came, he didn't get affected. Krishne nama Vishtamana Sada Haridas Aranye Rodita Hoila Sri Bhava Prakash. He was absorbed in chanting the names of the Lord. All the beauty of Maya Devi, all the illusory energy could not do anything. Prabhupada writes. When he wants to be attracted, he is talking about Supreme Lord. When he wants to be attracted by a woman, he has to create such a woman from his own energy. That woman is Srimati Radharani. So Radharani is the pleasure potency, Ladini Shakti. Okay. So when one gets attracted by the illusory energy, one cannot be attracted by the beauty of Krishna. So by the practice of bhakti, we have to learn to develop that attraction and connection with the Ladini Shakti. Ladini Korai Krishna Ananda Swadan, Ladini Radware Kore Bhaktera Poshan. Ladini has two roles: to give pleasure to Krishna and to nourish devotees. If we are not feeling that nourishment, that means we are not connecting with Ladini Shakti. Okay. Chakravarti Thakur writes, even the kings entering the inner chambers is greeted by his wife as follows: giving me up. You go out to conquer to enjoy another woman, what a rascal. Hinting this with a movement of his brows, the women kick the men who bow down before them in submission. Prabhupada would give very graphic examples. When a donkey goes to a she-donkey to enjoy, she kicks him, but he doesn't do anything. So that's what happens. Okay, we'll stop here. We'll continue next time from this 39th verse. Hare Krishna. Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagvatam ki jai. I'll just put that.
Bhagavatam ki jai. Hare Krishna.